Hello everybody, it is Al Knight and it is Brony time, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Now, of course, we left off, we had just completed our first summation examination in a desperate attempt to get the trial to continue with the hope that anything will come up to help turn the case back into our favor. Will it happen? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But let's go back to where we left off.
I only carried four passengers that night. I swear it, but.
Well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 cents for the bus.
He fitted us on the fare, he did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands.
Oh, yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so. Yes.
Counsel, make sense of this for me, please.
The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little coisonage.
Bravo! Explain yourself!
I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster.
The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare?
Yes, completely impartial jurors, folks.
It's so cold and the last run of the day is always half empty.
You have been dishonest, coachman.
I'm sorry.
You're a disgrace, Beppo! A disgrace! And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild!
If I may say, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week.
What?
4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures.
Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please.
We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you?
Oh, yes, that's right.
You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice-pick grip.
I suppose I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe.
What's this?
Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck.
Oh, I expect that was me, sir.
Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor, and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes.
So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all.
I really thought I did, but But when I could go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Oh, what's up, buddy?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay?
Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment that fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh?
Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on the top of the omnibus, that is.
Peeping? Oh, I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you.
Thank you, Mr. Fairplay.
Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord.
I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw.
Oh, I can do that, all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man?
I wouldn't call these blood-stained.
Objection.
Blood-soaked hands.
Well, I admit that soaked might be laying on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it.
Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar.
What?
Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilden, on the night in question.
Oh, yes, right.
And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But as far as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove.
Ah!
In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent.
Ah! But no! That can't be right!
So you're the liar here, then?
Ah!
That's right. You were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands.
Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth?
Objection.
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection.
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court.
Gah! Why, I'm a sinner begging for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate something, I don't know.
He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Sir Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain when Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the case of this trial completely. We never examined this ledger, did we? This portfolio must contain all sorts of secret of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Oh, come on, Ryan. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Oh, yes, of course. The banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Also, there is something I forgot to check, that I do want to check. Before we go on, we do need to examine, inside the omnibus. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? Ah, the scene of the murder, it's horrible. That's blood that's soaked into the seat. The victim's, obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab somebody in a full view of other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. The seat looks reasonably soft, but it's actually rather hard when you sit on it. Only just wide enough for two gentlemen to sit side by side, really. Of course, an English gentlewoman would be dressed in such finery. It would be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck, so she would have to be seated in here. A woman in a kimono would have the same problem. Women's clothes are very impractical, aren't they? The seat has a handle, it seems. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might need it to keep the omnibus running. Feeding, tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for a coachman to keep his things in, it seems. Doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway. Yeah, I think that's all we could really check. Anyway, there we go. We've caught up on all the evidence. It could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has compelling reasons to lie in their testimony. I have evidence. My lord.
Yes, counsel?
The defense is ready to present evidence.
By Jove, are you sure?
Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had a reason to lie in his testimony. Gah!
Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception in court.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilden. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Ah.
What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused?
God, no, Emmett! It's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Ah, well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilden were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case?
These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, All outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist.
Cease to exist?
Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant. Gah! Gah! Uh-oh!
Order! Order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay.
Yes, my lord.
Let me ask you again. Be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you, or did you not, see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim?
Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony.
All right, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch.
A pinch?
But it makes no difference.
I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilda's hands. Both of them.
Objection.
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have as evidence, is stained.
So you keep saying...
I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. First.
Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens.
Seeing what?
The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one.
But what?
It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear?
Yes.
Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. Of course, the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes, I might finally have a chance to turn things around here.
There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired. If that matters, it does.
I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attackers' hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no. Not until I heard that scream.
Anyway, the fact remains. There can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen.
Well, lo and behold. In truth of fact, not one of you was a witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated.
I apologize, my lord, but honestly... there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating estimate is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it.
That's really not what testimony is about.
Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case.
Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel.
Yes, my lord. And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus.
That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over.
Oh, yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter.
Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin.
Oh, why not?
It was locked from the inside. Tried knocking, but no one opened the door.
It was locked?
That's right, and it's a public bus service for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play.
Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the genocide suggested me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below.
Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down. I was glaring, long and hard. That's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed.
Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses, but they really have seen something inside the cabin through the skylight. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you.
What?
By golly, really?
Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh.
Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated?
Right here.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here.
Oh!
That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it.
Ah!
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity.
I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I'm racist too. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude.
Can you, Mr. Naruto? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt.
Let us not delay, Counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat.
This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was...
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witness on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded.
Mr. McGilded?
What are you talking about, Counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy.
Lord Van Zeeks.
People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to that fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way.
What inconsistency, Counsel?
The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim. Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance.
Yes, their testimony remains unchanged.
Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on the passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit.
Extraordinary! Order, order, order! What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense postulation is just that. Nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces.
Yes. Tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though.
Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir.
And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First?
I'm afraid I don't remember.
Would you call yourself a hatter? The style of hat makes no difference. Sorry. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused Mr. McGilded would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled? Stop! He's right. There was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. It's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it.
Order! There is a clearly simple solution to this problem.
Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand.
Well, what say you, counsel?
The prosecution objects, my lord.
On what grounds?
As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been most deliberate act.
Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion?
My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Well, obviously, we need him to, so yes. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand.
In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury.
Yes, I need a little time to consider this.
If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say!
It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs done, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild.
Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say. Oh yes, that would be lovely.
Yes, the jury says the man must be heard.
Very well. The court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once.
Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear.
Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day?
To be sure I have, my lord.
There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police?
Because, no, 'tis not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the question, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all, or keep me mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fellow represented me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger.
It's true?
Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... what?! No, Magnus McGilded. That conventional excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Zieks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you.
Which was?
Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see.
What?
If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom, just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord.
And who was this young child of whom you speak?
That I don't know.
You don't know?
Aye, well, the wee ting just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since. We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Oh, God! Oh, smoke! Oh, fire! There's a fire! Look, someone's trying to get it out! I can't see anything at all! What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruto. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus.
I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom.
We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff. Amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. To be continued. Sometimes they don't fall in a convenient place, do they? What on earth just happened in there? Mr. Naruto, I managed to find out what happened. Mrs. Otto, I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, type of exploding device that releases smoke. A smoke grenade? It sounds like the sort of thing ninjas use. Just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom. I feel like I missed something there. One second. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. A young girl? Then could it be the other passenger that Mr. McGilda was just talking about? My thoughts exactly. So he wasn't lying. Oh. What's become of Mr. McGilda, actually? There's so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's another matter that's troubling me. What's that? The 20 pence. According to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. And now it seems there were in fact 5 passengers, which means the figures don't seem to add up again. She's right. That is strange.
Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go in straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine the young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. Really can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. We'll know soon enough, Mrs. Otto. Yes. I'm gonna start saving a little more often now because these cases are very long, and if I lose my save, have to go through the whole thing again. Now, given that this is not a blind playthrough, I guess it's not the end of the world, but I'd rather not have to redo all that. So yes, I'll be saving quite a bit in this game from now on. There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look. She must have been the one who caused the disturbance before.
Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded.
Excuse me?
Now then, Lord Van Zieks.
My lord.
I believe you have established the cause of the smoke, which failed proceedings earlier.
It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade, of the sort typically employed by the army.
Good gracious, the army? What in the devil's name?
It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery, but she was caught, and now occupies the stand.
Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced such pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior?
If I may, my lord.
Yes, Mr. McGilded.
I think perhaps I ought to explain here. Why is it that this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that? 'Tis all tied up with the events of that night, so it is.
Very well, Mr. McGilded. Give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case.
Just what did happen that night? It's not like the defense lawyer needs the information or anything. On the night in question, I took the back seat of the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then, begorra, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. Therefore was a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me. Then I turned to find out where that scream had come from, and bless me soul, what did I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away.
I remain somewhat baffled, I confess, but from what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in an omnibus. Is that correct?
'Tis exactly as the defence counsel said. This lass was the fifth passenger, my lord.
Very well. The defence may now cross-examine the witness. Are you ready, counsel?
Yes, my lord. Or rather, no. I have no idea where to start.
Hold it!
And when you first got onto the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board?
There were not. The cabin was empty and there was no one on the roof deck either. You were the first passenger, as it were, I see.
Aye, and that's why I took the back side as I did. Just the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means, just how you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite to the one in which the poor gentleman who was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, just the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. A loud thud, you say, and a scream.
Aye, that's right. How can I explain it? 'Twas like the sound of someone falling to the ground, that sort of noise.
So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor having been stabbed?
Well, now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I would like to say. And when the sound woke me and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fellow on the floor.
You didn't see anyone, but at the same moment you did hear a scream.
Ah, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume?
Not above me, no, my lord. 'Twas from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about that scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before me eyes.
Hold it!
You set him up. The victim, you mean? That I did, on the seat across from me, as I said. I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor now, would you? 'Tis common courtesy, so it is.
I find that a little hard to believe.
Our Lord Van Zeeks. Now why would that be?
You wake to find a man lying dead at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabin. Any upstanding member of London society, that is.
Well now, as you know, I am in something of a special line of business.
The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest.
Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer them, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no! I was always intended to report it, so I was. Only I had a mind to find out the whys and wherefores first. The whys and wherefores. Right you are. There were some details I want to understand before anyone else got to meddling. Okay. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same?
Yes, the scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing.
Hold it!
I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim.
So I did, sir, so I did. As far as I could see, that is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, now, 'tis a queer thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside.
Good gracious!
Under your backside? And when I lifted the seat on which I've been sitting, I found there was a wee cubby hole there for storage. So now hold on. We can examine the omnibus ourselves, remember?
Yes, of course. The whole bus was submitted as evidence.
That would be a very good time to have a thorough look around inside.
That it would, so let's go ahead and do that. Scene of murder, it's horrible.
That's blood, isn't it? Is something wrong? Oh, it's just, well, this bloodstain is so obvious, that's all. And yet Van Zeeks has made no mention of it. Suppose that does seem a little strange. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? The seat has a handle, it seems. This is a storage compartment, but there's nothing in here. It's totally empty. Something doesn't seem right here, but I can't put my finger on what it is. Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then.
Alright, I think that is everything for now.
And that's when I found her.
Shoot, I hit the wrong button. I always want to hit Z. I mean G, but that's to get to the menu. You say she was hiding herself.
Aye, that's right.
Excuse me?
'Twas hard to see in the dim lamplight, but she was all curled up in a wee ball when our eyes met. Well, my heart nearly stopped beating in me chest.
You're really overreacting to this.
Still and all, I pulled her out from under there and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chin wag with her.
The seat opposite?
That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there.
You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir?
Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I needed to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream. A fella's voice this time. Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with the knife in his belly.
In other words, the previous witness did not, in fact, see you at all, Mr. McGilden. But they believed to be yourself and the victim was, in fact, this girl and the late Mr. Mason.
Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sent to the back of the carriage out of sight.
It is certainly plausible. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused, perhaps, with this young girl.
After that, of course. With the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses.
Thank you, I've heard enough. The events are explained and clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is this girl?
And we shall have to find that out next time on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Yes, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of today's episode. And what an interesting episode it was. We uncovered a huge twist in this case. The presence of this young girl who has yet no name, and have received our explanation from McGilded on the whole situation. And of course, we'll have to continue with this another time. We are past the 50-minute mark, so it's about time. Found a good stopping point, and I figured the end of his testimony was the perfect time to stop. So, thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to Brony Time for more content, especially more of the Great Ace Attorney adventures. Once again, this is the month of Ace Attorney. It will be exclusively Great Ace Attorney for the foreseeable future of this month. Of course, we are going to pause this playthrough when the new Apollo Justice game comes out. Also, please make sure to share this video far and wide so it can get into many people as possible. Into many people as possible. That sounded terrible. Catch the eyes of many people is a better thing to say. But yeah, I will see you all next time.